February 6th, 2026. But it is day 5 of meditations from On a Year of High Consequence. And this is just the best time of day. I almost feel an obligation to share this amazing moment, 2 hours in the day when the sun's streaming in my window. And I have the luxury of just being able to absorb this meditative moment all morning long, and then try to think outside the box for the rest of y'all, because I know you're all, a lot of people driving to work or have other family ties. I've deliberately put myself where I am. I could probably have been anywhere I wanted to. I dropped out of Harvard, went into the arts, deliberately trying to stay away from making money or even having to account for myself in some ways. I wanted to be what I feel I've been, free to be a freelance planet healer. It didn't get put to me in those terms until I was trying to, a woman channeled American Indian medicine man named White Bear. So, Mike, you're a planet healer. And you don't get women. So what do you mean by that? Well, was that prophecy? Or by then it was fact. When I was already 50 years old when he told me that. But I'd already known this. Because since the 70s, it was clear, first of all, to a lot of people, that we were heading towards a karmic denouement, a karmic consequence of, to me, it's an obvious fact. I was going to start with an obvious, basic, practical fact. I had some metaphysical musings. I'm not sure which way this will go. But part of it, it's a report day to day, because this is a day, could be saying meditations in a year of high consequence. Happy birthday, Bob Marley, and mine is in 2 days, Ronald Reagan and myself. And the funny thing is, you could take the transcript of whatever I'm saying, let ChatGPT Ronald Reagan explain it to you. Does a really good job. This, by the way, is Ministry of Happiness for the Neighborhood Party Unlimited. Sometimes I forget to mention that. We're doing an organizing effort. And for the moment, it's me talking to possibly the future people, or myself a lot, because I'm taking notes. And it's I watch the media and what's going on, and then I've just had enough. And then I have to go back to my own vision of, yes, this can work out, because I've seen it and I understand it. Part of it is understanding, and the fact is, getting to the news, there's all this craziness going on. The E-Files, all the Zaya, and Charlie K, and all this other craziness and things that look like conspiracies everywhere. And then the so-called elites are sort of locking us down, and us versus them. And it's also the end of the world, like we might be entering apocalypse, road warrior, or lockdown with elites in towers or on Mars. And it's all happening. And I say it's all because we have the basic building block of our whole structure is everyone in it for themselves. Why is anybody surprised about all this other stuff? So I know I probably cut it. Now I'm not knowing right around 3 something is when the edits happen easy. Otherwise, this machine doesn't let me make longer edits. So what's going on right now is I'm doing these videos on a daily basis because there's a lot to share. And things are changing, and we need to take it to on-the-ground projects. I'm still trying to reach people's motivation to engage. And the whole thing about the 3 perspectives I hammer on, I think it's a simple way of looking at a really complex situation, but it makes it manageable. And so wherever you're coming from, I'm going to reiterate, material light, we all have to deal with that. That's what we got to deal with. I'm saying I don't care if you are a Jehovite, which is disrespectful way of saying Christian and Allah, Jehovah, right? That's the one I mentioned. The other one's Buddhite. Just as equally disrespectful way of saying everything else meditative and the one mind and belief in spirit or practices of higher just consciousness, meditation, all those self-improvement from a spiritual or even just psychologically coherent and self-empowering direction, all that's what I'm calling Buddhite to some extent. Obviously, it spills over into the materialite, where these practices actually are good medicine. Uh, and the materialite, which I'm referring to as just reality, like the physical plane and everything we have to do in the real world, like economics and politics, and more importantly, correct agriculture and correct, like what the Buddha was saying, right use or whatever it is, wise use. Anyway, all three of these perspectives are valid, and yet, they still have finger pointingness going on. The big discrepancy a lot of places between the Jehovites and everybody else. There's a lot of, but even the Jehovites have to deal with the material plane and how they deal with it. It's like, yeah, we're just going to do the business, whatever business. That's what. But on the other hand, that makes them really attentive to the details of doing business and not so mesmerized by the whole group project going on. And yet, the whole Jehovite thing is a group project. The Buddhite thing lets you just be separate and meditate on your own until you reach the one mind. But the materialites bring us back into the group project. We can't get away with just letting this thing crash and expect it to turn out right. And right now, all the institutions of agency are in the old paradigm that has us based on us versus them, each individual versus everybody else. And so long as it's that way, it never gets better. What am I saying? It doesn't shift into the new paradigm that needs to bring it home to intelligent use, intelligent production, which is community and the network of meaning and relationships that is. I'm getting mesmerized by the idea that, okay, there's another edit. So community as a structure, which is what keeps us healthy and what makes species in general survive. And when we came to the level of complexity of expanding all of our everything, all of our interactions, we lost some of the intimate connections. And that was going to be the case for a while. And we were going to end up here in a way, There's, as I say, these three perspectives. If you want to be the materialite version of history and the materialite version of who we are individually, which tends to be spooky because now you're one among 8 billion and you lose the sense of specialness that the spirit dimension gives you. And you have to fall back on a sense of specialness that comes from the humanist sciences, which are cold-blooded anyway. And they're too logical, and you're trying to just be too generalist, like the whole trans everything thing. Just too much of an issue made about all that and got way too abstract. The reality is, yes, there's some people who are born with issues and they should be dealt with individually, not as a political football. The idea of dragging people into more kinds, forget it. I don't want to get into that. But anyway, a lot of these things are incentivized by us versus them. You get somebody thinking they can make a buck doing something like that, and everybody expects that to not turn out kind of as ugly as it is. So yeah, even the e-files that just make it conclusive that a lot of our elites are sketchy. Okay, huh? Or you have to be sketchy to get that high up, or you get halfway there and they drag you the rest of the way up to be sketchy. Whatever, man. Are there some elites that aren't so sketchy? People are looking at Putin now and maybe, what the hell? You never know, man. Because they were too afraid of him that they never invited him in. That could be, who cares? The elites are part of the mix. Don't look to them to change it. It needs to come up from the ground up because, man, everything's based on the economy that all of us participate in. We can start shifting it over to we're getting our food more local, and then you start doing other things more, and you start negotiating with bigger companies. But to really make it vital and have it work, you need companies that understand the logic. So I had some new points to make, but let me just continue, and maybe I'll add a couple of videos today. The logic of community-based economies, the idea that you could turn that into a business proposition that makes sense now to everybody because people are wondering where their food's coming from, and food is getting more expensive. So you have the notion that you're going to get your food more directly. Might even have, and people are starting to be out of work, so you wouldn't mind putting a couple of hours into doing a little bit of farming or take care of the farm in front of your on your lawn. But you want somebody really coordinating that, maybe with your neighbors that are your neighbors might not be into it, but people down the block somewhere might be. You get somebody coordinating that, and that's an example of what could be a community-based business that doesn't make a profit. It's not a nonprofit, but it's enough to keep everybody going. And that sounds like a humble project, but it's the paradigm version idea that we're working for uh, providing instead of profit. The two P's: sustenance, uh, resource, whatever you want to call it. Now, it's a way to intelligently retrofit a whole economy to something that makes more sense and is more responsible both in use and production. And the current economy can retrofit into that incrementally and as fast as they need to or want to or can or decide they want to. And the argument to make that an intelligent argument where we have to brainstorm together because nobody quite knows how to do this, but there's examples of it. And there's enough examples of different aspects of this paradigm, which is that going back to meaningful place in community, but people pitch that as in the for-profit economy as you got to buy in for 10 grand or you know get an exclusive insight on our lectures and here's how you do it by yourself. No, we need a coordinated movement that helps people pull it together. And the new paradigm involves people actually coordinating and co-owning and cooperating. And the economy doesn't have to be competitive to be an open market. A free market, a cooperative free market is much more intelligent. You still have a choice who you're going to cooperate with. And it's still a question of like, does that relationship prosper more than others? And but not in a competitive fashion. Competitive in terms of like how prosperous are you or joyous or whatever, and you start to share things. And then this part it's not a political movement, it's an economic and social movement. So it transformed things at their own pace and at their own relevance. Certain aspects, probably many aspects of this current economy, especially we move fast enough and things get grounded in real resource. It's not a question of using less oil. It's a question of using everything more intelligently. That's another, us versus them on so many levels that it's understandable where it all comes from. It comes from the fact that we're all us versus them. You can't trust me I'm trying to sell you my latest book. No, I haven't written a damn book. I'll be turning 70 in 2 days. And this is my effort right now to gather a handful of people. But at this point, it's about focusing what I'm trying to say and put it into a short essay or something, a proposal to the right people, a flyer to student groups, because it's not about one project doing it either. It's about sowing seeds. And now at this point, it's a complex crystalline structure we need. And the fact is, there's a lot of good ideas coming out, but pulling it all together. I had a vision. I was going to get into some other crazy shit today about like, if you think of Jehovah as an active player, like just another gangster out there, and he writes the Bible to describe what the hell's going on, like, and look out for the 10-horned beast and don't fall into all these pitfalls and trying to like assure, we still got it. You still got your back. It's an interesting, weird story, and it's so quirky and what a back shot in so many ways. It almost, I don't want to get into all that, but we're in a really crazy time, even if you look at it that way as a prophecy or from all the other angles. The Hopi also says, listen, we either get it right or we crash. The in-between zone, you don't want to be there. They don't even have a line for it. It literally looks like that. That's why I make that shape, horizontally. And on a rock, they go, look, we're going this way, boom, or that way, up to the stars. But it's about grounding it on all these levels. And that's where the third perspective of the perspective coming back in the last minute, the Jehovite and the whole idea that you are getting a coherent story from a higher source, like the mind of the cosmos. And even to have that happen, you have to think of it. The Buddhite side is the one source, the one mind. That's all of us. Group think. You sort of meditate. You get to that too. There's that. There is that. But there is also the Jehovah is a genuine, to me. I've seen how that works out. And we're all actual entities like that. The spirit entities. I don't know where I think animals come through the material plane. So anyway, the version that there is a story that's for real that you should be paying attention to, but there's also something you have responsibility to yourself to get to the higher wisdom, and it's doable as well. Christians don't allow for that. And then the fact that all of us need to deal with the material plane as an entity, a living entity onto its own with a complex set of lessons for us, but also different ways that we need to deal with it. And that's how it comes up, and it's all its complexity. But also the idea from the Jehovah side that we're going to bring this all together now.